Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on automating a real-life phishing response. We're going to walk through an actual workflow to help you tackle future phishing investigations from triage to remediation. But before we begin, I do want to go through some housekeeping items with everyone. So first of all, I want to let everyone know that today's session will be recorded and shared out via email, so you can rewatch at your own convenience. And furthermore, we will have a Q&A at the end of this session, so you can rewatch, and feel free to use the Zoom control panel at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions at any point in time during the presentation. So first of all, I want to introduce myself and the talent, Andy Shepard. So my name is Caroline Adams, and I'm on the demand generation team here at Simplify. And today I'm joined by the fabulous Andy Shepard. He is our Senior Solutions Engineer at Simplify. And Andy has over 2 decades of IT and cybersecurity experience. And he has experience in both managing and working in security operations centers. So he really has a lot of experience in the source space and a really deep knowledge in this space. So we're really excited to have him here today. Before Andy dives in the platform, I'm going to quickly set the stage what you'll see shortly. So going into the agenda for today, we're going to first go through the phishing challenges, and then we're going to go into an introduction to SOAR and the basics of Simplify. Andy's going to do the live demonstration, and then we're going to close out with our Q&A session. So everyone knows that phishing is a huge problem, or else you probably wouldn't be here today. Really, as a category, depending on how you look at it, phishing is one of the biggest type of threats that we face, and it's accounting for 80% of reported security incidents. So many organizations are saying that phishing is on the rise, especially with the increase in phishing threats during the pandemic. And these things really do take a long time to investigate and mitigate, taking over 7 hours during a security analyst day, responding to a single phishing threat. So this is really where SOAR and Simplify can help save you hours upon hours during an investigation. So more about Simplify and us as a company. So as a company, we like to say that we were born in the SOC. Our company was founded by security operation experts who worked in a government SOC, then moved on and trained dozens and dozens of military and civilian SOCs around the world. And so they really founded the company and developed Simplify based on their experiences and everything that security operations teams need to succeed. So we are the leading independent security operations platform, and we're trusted by the biggest and best enterprises and MSSPs from around the world. So there's many Fortune 500 companies and the Gartner Magic Quadrant that really trust Simplify as the platform to run their security operations day in and day out. So this is clearly reflected in our Gartner Peer Insights reviews, where we have the #1 rated platform. And finally, we really designed with the customer in mind. So really focus on providing rapid to time value and providing the power to close the gap between on-prem and cloud security operations. So this is really more important now than ever with the hybrid workforce and work from home environments. So now, what sets Simplify apart and what is the Simplify difference? So there's a lot of source solutions out there, but these 3 things is really what sets us apart from the rest. So we are a complete security operations platform. We really offer a much broader solution that serves as a central workbench for security operations, from the entry-level analyst to the SOC manager and beyond. We also really focus on our threat-centric approach. So it groups alerts from across detection tools into single threat-centric cases. This really ensures that analysts are spending their times on threats versus chasing alerts, and it really provides a huge efficiency gain. And finally, the Simplify platform is really powerfully simple. Yes, there's a lot of power and flexibility for engineers, but this platform really allows analysts to be productive and ramp up quickly, enabling them to really make rapid and educated decisions. So now with that, I'm going to hand things over to Andy to walk us through a real life automated phishing response in the Simplify platform.
Brilliant, thanks, Caroline. Right, let's just share my screen. And if you can tell me if that's coming through okay?
Yes, you can see it. Thank you.
Okay, guys, so let's look at a 10-15 minute run through what we can basically do with phishing. And we're going to talk about phishing today. Obviously, it's the point of the webinar. It's the main talking point. And I think, as Caroline says, phishing is a crazy use case for SOAR. It's something we do very well. It's something that pretty much every proof of concept and every customer I've talked to in the 3 years I've been doing SOAR, it is a problem that pretty much every customer faces. So it's always a great use case, but obviously SOAR is able to do so much more. So we might touch on a few of the use cases just to make sure we cover that this is a much broader topic, but obviously, the focus of today will be the phishing. So if we go straight to the playbook, straight to the case section, we can see here in our layout that in Simplify on the left-hand side, we have a list of all the cases that have been created in the platform and are assigned to me or to the role that I play a part of. So I could be a SOC engineer or a tier 1 analyst or a senior admin, and all these cases, because they're assigned to me or my role, they're visible to me. And we can see quite a lot of different cases in there, but I want to pick on today the phishing email case on the left. As I select that, we can see all the details for the case on the right-hand side. And the first thing I want to point out is that we actually have up in the top middle alerts for. That means that this case actually has 4 different alerts in the platform. And this is when Simplify uses the phrase threat-centric. It means that our cases are talking about a threat, a chain of events, a story, rather than a single alert line, a single log. And the way we do that is that every time an alert comes into Simplify, we look and see if there are any existing cases in the server in Simplify that are similar enough for us to align the alerts together in the case. So when this first alert came to Simplify, we had nothing similar, so we created a new case and we added the new alert. A few seconds later, a second alert was received by Simplify. Now, in this case, when we looked at it, and what we do is we normalize the alert structure. So whether it's via a SIEM, whether it's via a case management solution, whether it's via API, whether it's by the team, whether we've collected an alert direct from a technology, whether it was a scheduled event that happens every minute, every hour, every week, all these different ways of getting an alert into the platform. But the first thing Simplify does is normalize that structure, look at the entities inside the alert, and that's how we look for correlation. So this second phishing email shared enough in common with the first alert that Simplify recognized these 2 alerts should be placed together in the same case. A few seconds later, a third alert was received, and a few seconds later, a fourth alert was received. Now, in this case, the first three alerts, if I click, and then we go to the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that in today's demo story, these 3 alerts came via a proof point tap. So these 3 alerts came via one technology, and my fourth alert was a semantic DLP via Splunk. So as you can see there, we have 2 different technologies at 2 different places in the technology stack, giving me 2 different structures via 2 different routes, but Simplify was clever enough to know, because of our patent technology, that this is one actual story. This is one attack. Now, if we disagree with that, if we think we would rather handle them separately or there's been a mistake, of course, we can move them out. We can separate these and split them and merge them and clone them and delete them. But this is the way that we think the analyst should care about it. The best way to visualize why we've done this is we're going to click on the Explore button, which will show me the same chain of alerts, but as a visual correlation. So on the left-hand side, my first alert, this phishing alert, number 1, we can see the email sender, the email recipient, and a few entities. So we can see here there was a link, an email subject, a file name, and that file had a hash. So we've lit these up and we've color coded them. So red is something that threat intelligence tells me is bad. Green is something that we can't work out is bad, so we leave it as green. The other color to recognize here, and we do have a full legend, but we're not going to go into that today. The other example for this is that a hollow icon is not an asset I control, and a filled in icon is an asset I do control. So we can see here that because this icon is hollow, I can see that it is an external domain emailing into one of our domains with a few entities. The second alert of the 4 was very similar, but to a different recipient. The third alert was to a third recipient. And then my DLP alert shared one of those users that was involved in a similar time frame, created some entities and some alerts to a domain, and we can actually see that that domain is similar to the malicious link. So now if I stand back, I can see that, yes, we've had, a few phishing alerts, but actually this is part of one campaign, and it appears as though one of the users fell victim and started triggering some other alerts. Now, in this case, in this story, the way we've been collecting the phishing alerts is from a mailbox. So Simplify isn't there to be your traditional primary spam filter. We're not there doing a million email filtering a day, but these are for where users have actually reported this. Maybe a technology like Proofpoint has automatically found it and told me. Maybe we've had users manually forwarding it because they think something is up. So different ways of basically triggering this alert. So the first thing we do is group them. And the reason why we do that is because as an analyst, something I've got experience of in a previous life, handling 4 alerts differently, maybe sometimes they go to 4 different analysts, maybe each analyst doesn't realize it's part of a wider attack. So they handle alerts as a single item. Whereas here, we have one case to one analyst with 4 alerts in. So yes, we still handle the alerts individually, but we understand the context of the bigger picture before we start making decisions. So the first saving I give to the analyst is a brain saving, fewer things to concentrate on. The second thing we do is that for each alert, we run a playbook. Now, yes, we ship with many playbooks out of our marketplace library, so there's a full collection over there. But it's also very important to know that even if we had 1,000 playbooks, you will still want to change and tweak it. So we have a mouse drag and drop type develop environment where we can start to drag these squares in, and basically we build our own adventure. So each of these blue squares at the bottom is an individual action. Simplify integrates with around 300 technologies, and each technology has multiple actions. So for example, Active Directory, we can disable a user, enable a user, find somebody's manager, we can enrich entities, we can modify OUs. So you can see that multiple actions for every vendor means we have thousands and thousands of these little blue tasks we can basically drag in. And by doing that, we can build our own story. So for a phishing alert, and every time we get an alert, we run the playbook once per alert. Maybe in this alert, what we do by default is we start off with some virus total. The first thing I want to know as an analyst is that malicious? So as I click on the action, we can see in the top right that this action was to do a scan hash. After this, we did a scan URL, and so on. So if I'm using MISP or Anomaly or ThreatQ or ThreatConnect or virus total or passive total, whatever I use, we basically drag those squares into a playbook. So within seconds of the alert coming to me, I've started being able to tell more of a story. And the best way to visualize that is to look at these insights. So if we look at the insights for the case as a whole, we have 10. And an insight can be anything. It's something I want or something the playbook tells the analyst. So my first insight here is actually the email headers of the malicious email. Now, showing you this isn't necessarily voodoo. Anyone that's done phishing before knows how to do this, but you will also know it's a horrible little job. It takes about 4 minutes, and there's probably 40 clicks of the mouse to get the email, extract the headers, do a multi-mime part, and look at base 64 and blah, blah, blah. So, if you're doing 20 or 30 of these a day, this 4 minutes alone here is a material saving to you, to the mouse button, to wearing out the mouse, to your sanity. It's a great thing. Yeah, again, the more of them you do, the better the saving. But we've also been talking with virus total, as you know. We've been talking with asset management and user management to work out who is that target, what OUs are they part of, what's their telephone number, who's their manager, who is being targeted in this attack. In this example today, we've also looked at recorded future. We've been integrating with MITRE and X-Force and all these other things, so that as an analyst, when I log in the morning, I see I have a case, I see I have 4 alerts, I can simply scroll up and down here and see all the context related to the attack. It's also been summarized on the right-hand side for me, so we can see a malicious hash, malicious URL, a file name, we can see the sender, the recipient, the IPs, the domains. So within a few seconds, I basically understand this entire case and all the different alerts inside it. Now, at this point, it really depends on what we want the playbook to do. I've seen customers who want to automatically thank the end user and say, well done, you were correct. Or, by the way, you are being targeted by phishing, as we have detected. So sometimes when we get to the middle part of the playbook, the actions that I want the playbook to do for me automatically are fully automated. So it could be a communication like sending a Slack message or a Teams or an SMS, but it could also be technology. Query the scene. Now we've seen this malicious email. Have we seen anybody connecting to that URL before by looking at the proxy logs? Because it might be that today was the first time it was as part of an alert, but actually we've been querying it for 6 months. So at this point, maybe we start to talk to endpoint and get policy information, or seem to get URL or IP activity. And again, we've got some logos here. This is just one of our playbooks. So in this case, we're talking to Cisco. So in this case, we were using their whois information to enrich the story even more. We were talking with McAfee to submit a file, and so on. Now, at this point, it's quite common for a playbook and for a company's approach to say, we want, at this point, the playbook to stop and ask the analyst. So we can do this with conditions, little purple tasks. Now, in this condition, in this example today, we have a playbook that stopped, basically waiting for confirmation about the malware sandbox telling me that the malicious file was malicious. Another way of doing this is to say to the analyst, dear analyst, here is my purple condition. Please make a decision. Do you agree this is malicious? Now, if the analyst says no, maybe what we do is we change the case priority to low and we close the case. If the analyst says yes, then we can start to do further actions. Maybe we talk to a firewall and proxy and automatically push that indicator to a blocking policy. Maybe we talk to an EDR and we submit the file hash to say, go hunt this file in the network, and if we find it, quarantine or delete it. Maybe we talk to Windows to reset passwords or just temporarily reduce someone's permissions if we think they've been compromised. Maybe we could take them out of sensitive OUs while we investigate, and then we have the playbook put them back in. Maybe we start to log a ticket in ServiceNow, if you recognize the logo, and log tickets for enablement and education for the team. Maybe we send an email to the user and again, we thank them. So for me, this is very much the remediation part of the process. So what we can do is we can stop at this question and say, dear analyst, from all the evidence you've seen as part of the insights, do you agree this playbook should automatically do remediation, yes or no? And if the analyst presses yes, we can take path 1, and we can basically then do an approved set of actions. Or maybe the analyst says, option 3 might be, it is malicious, but we want the analyst to take over because we want to do remediation manually. So if we put all this together, we have a process and we have a playbook down here that says, if it wasn't malicious, simply close it automatically. And in this case, the SOC team or your analyst team or the security engineers have got no work to do. Obviously, everything we do from stage handling to SLA tracking to dynamic tagging and role-based access control, MTTR, all those enterprise case management features, they're all happening automatically. They're populating the tactical dashboards, they're populating our management reporting. We actually use Tableau for that, so we can do really amazingly interactive reports on SLA per technology type, per department, per SOC team, and all great breakdowns like that. So anything that happens even automatically is still populating the metrics. Anything that does look bad, we then give to the analyst to say, do you want to take over? Do you want automatic remediation, or do you want to close it here? And no matter what they pick, it's been a simple click of the mouse. So if we look at the case at a high level, what we're saying now is we have 4 alerts. It's quite easy to spend half an hour on a phishing case, with all the different tabs, all the different platforms. So we've now basically turned 3 different alerts into 3 playbooks where the analyst potentially spent 10 or 20 seconds of their life just reading and making that decision. So, even here, we're talking about a 1.5 hour saving potentially, and this is just on one case. But on top of that, we've done all the enrichment. We have standardized the process so the analyst can't forget, the analyst can't deviate. A problem I used to see in the SOC was people that would close tickets without really following the process, without really saying what they did, why they did it, how they did it, their thought process, and so on. But by building this into a playbook, we actually start to have an automated audit trail. So this means that every time something is reassigned, and this could be that I've reassigned it by hand if I want someone else to have a look, but also reassigning can be part of a playbook. So if we find it's malicious, automatically give it to this team. If the SLA is expired, give it to a different team. We can see here decisions, multiple choice questions being answered. We can see virus total enrichment or any kind of input and output. So by default, we audit everything. And then as a team start to take over, if they want to take over, at the bottom, we can start to communicate by going, ooh, this looks bad. And then we tag in a friend. Maybe as I'm taking over this case and I want to do something manually, I can do rich text, images, file uploads. We can even start to collaborate by adding tasks to each other. So I could ask another member of staff to please talk and educate the end user. Maybe we do some training. Maybe we point them in the direction of a knowledge base article on how to handle phishing in the future. And we can give it a target date. So we can communicate like a standard ticketing system. We can collaborate by assigning tasks. From here, we can even start to do manual actions. So maybe my playbook isn't designed to do everything. And from here, I then want to start doing additional actions on top to augment the playbook, to augment the process. So any of those integrations on the box, we can go from here. So if I've decided in part of my case, and today we're looking at phishing, but it could be any case, maybe I want to disable a user, well, then I can just say, go find me that internal user and disable their account in Active Directory while we investigate because we think this is a serious compromise. So now, instead of the analyst having to load a second monitor, log into a platform, drill down, find the policy, change the policy, collect evidence of changing the policy, and then uploading the evidence back to a case management system, something they probably won't do if the people I've met are anything to go by. But instead, by doing it here, we've not had to do any of that. I simply say, disable the user, press go, and all my evidence is collected for me. So yes, if there is nothing for the analyst to do, the turnaround time of a case could be 5, 10, 20 seconds. If we're talking a slightly more involved case where we just want the analyst to approve the playbook, keeping the humans in the loop, keeping the humans making decisions, then we're turning a 1 hour case, a 1.5 hour case of phishing down to 20 seconds. So a material time saving, much better MTTR, much better service to the business. But if we're then talking a harder case, maybe where the phishing looks a little bit more serious, or we want to kind of take over and run with it, then we're still providing the analyst the tools, the case management, the metrics, the assigning, the collaboration, the communication, the integrating with tools, the automatic auditing, basically there, to increase the auditing and reduce process deviation. So I think no matter which way the case goes, there's a different set of tools in there for the analyst. And then again, at the end of the month, when it comes down to, managers and metrics and KPIs, we have none of that to do because all the while through, Simplify has been tracking the time that this case spent in triage, the time it took someone to do a remediation process, the time from the ticket being created to being closed. And then with that, we can start to build operational dashboards that are automatically populated. So we can see the workloads on the team. We can see where the root causes are. We can start to get a high level view of the playbooks, which playbooks are running the most. Where are we spending most time? Which vendor integrations are we getting most value out of? And so on. And these are very easy to build, all drag and drop, but we're not going to go into that today. The one last thing we're also doing really is a lot of threat tracking. So let's just go to a different page for a few seconds. All the way through, in fact, you might have seen here, if we go back to the case. On the right-hand side, we have these malicious entities, and these are what we've been enriching in the process. So we can simply pivot on that. For some reason it's logging me out. Why are you doing that? Let's cheat and use a bookmark. So by pivoting on the entities, we're also tracking entities. We're tracking all the meta details about it. So what did virus total tell me? What did passive total tell me, or MISP or anomaly or anything else? We're tracking the metadata. So where are we seeing it? Which alerts have we seen it in? Maybe we're looking at file names that this file hash has been observed using before. What's the breakdown of cases? What has the team been talking about it? So as well as doing all the case-based user interface and dashboards, we also have entity-based dashboards, so we can search as a team, we can look at threat intel. There is also a TIP module, a threat intelligence platform that we do called Threat Views. It's actually underpinned by Anomaly, so it's pretty damn good. Way beyond the scope of today's quick demo, but if anyone ever has a need for a slightly reduced tip, then we can basically look at that as well. And then the last thing we would ever potentially do is go to the command center. So if it looks like we had a major phishing campaign, maybe this was targeting 10, 20, 30 people, and it looked like a lot of data exfiltration happened and a lot of compromise, then maybe that's something that we would then escalate to the command center. So in the top right-hand corner, we can see how to move that across. And at that point, it becomes a crisis management tool where it's not about APIs and playbooks and analysts. It's about getting stakeholders in. It's about decision makers. It's about getting in the CEO and a lawyer and a public relations company and a media company to work out how to handle this and go to the press, and how do we do decision making and automated reporting. So again, we have a crisis management tool for when alerts and cases get a bit out of hand. Again, beyond the scope of today, but if anybody wants to look at Simplify, probably something worth knowing. With that, we're coming up to the half hour, so I'm going to stop there. I hope that was interesting. I hope that's given you guys some kind of ideas. Again, we were looking at phishing today, but joiners, movers, leavers, malware playbooks, ransomware playbooks, IDS, WAF, vulnerability management, SSL scanning, the use cases are pretty much everywhere. But with that, Caroline, I hope that was good. I hope it came through loud and clear, and I'll hand back to you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much, Andy. We do have a few questions that came up. We're ready to answer some of them. One of the questions that came up is the remediation action, the playbook preloaded, or will the SOC team need to manually create the playbook from scratch? Andy, did you get the question?
Sorry, guys, I'd muted myself. I'll come straight off you again.
No worries. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so the idea is that all the remediation actions, the little blue tasks to drag into a playbook, yes, we have playbooks with remediation steps in, but like I say, even if I gave you 1,000 variants, the truth is, and I've been doing this for a few years, it won't necessarily be perfect for you. So what I recommend to people is go through our marketplace, find the ways that we've done playbooks, copy them, clone them, merge them, make them your own, but you will have to do a bit of pre-tuning. But even if you have to do the tuning, again, we've written all the code, we've written the actions. It really is a drag and drop exercise. So we've done most of it for you, but in my experience, yes, there's a little bit of tuning on your side to do to get the most out of it. But again, it depends on the use case basis.
Okay, thank you. We have another question about talking about time savings. Is there a report or something in Simplify that can show time savings and cost value per playbook?
Yeah, so we look at things like how many times a playbook has run, how long did it take to run, and then it's very simple to basically build a dashboard on that and see where we're getting the best value. Yes, we can do reports on that today. There is actually something I'm dying to work on any day now that will actually really take that into an ROI report, where we can actually really start to drill down and get the best value per vendor. So I think that really takes that question to the next level, and that's something that I'm looking at. But yes, those kind of reports we do, and we look at where's the best time savings, which use cases we're getting most value out of, to really see where's the SOC getting the best return on that.
Okay, great. And another question that's coming up in the chat is asking how grouping is done here.
Cool. So so as you saw in our demo today, the correlation there is not something you have to pre-code. So we have an out-of-the-box rule that basically is good enough for pretty much every use case. We saw which entities we grouped on, so things like username, things like time-bound, things like hostname and IP address. So for the vast majority of use cases, the out-of-the-box is really all you need to do. It's not something you tune. I think more importantly there is, it's not something you have to know ahead of time. You know, it's not like I'm saying, dear Simplify, please correlate these alert groups when you see them if this IP is the same. I mean, it could work, but you're never going to know ahead of time exactly the combination of alerts you're going to get tomorrow. And if you did, you're going to have so many signatures to write. So the way we do it is very automatic, it's very dynamic. It basically kind of works for pretty much every use case as long as we can see those entities in the alert. Now, what we can do is in the user interface, very easy to do, we can actually start to specify custom grouping algorithms on top of that. So if you started to have a few technologies that were causing you pain or very noisy, or you wanted to actually customize that, you can, but you really don't have to. You know, again, it's our patented technology, it's something we're very proud of. So honestly, most of the time, out of the box is what people are after.
Okay, awesome. One more question here. How is the email header analysis insight done? Is it based on a default action or is it custom?
No, it's a default out of the box. We have some actions there called header analysis and stuff, and converting that to insights. So it's out of the box. What, again, beyond the scope of today, but one of my favorite things about you know, good SOAR platform is that all of those actions are in Python. If we went to the IDE, you can actually see how that code is done. So even though it's out of the box, if you said, do you know what, I want it to work a bit differently, we can. You know, we can clone that, we can tweak it. You know, if you guys want to really roll your sleeves up and get into the Python, you can, but you don't have to. 99% of customers, I would say, don't really ever look at the Python. You know, that's Simplify's job to push those commands out. But if you did want to, you have full access to. But in that case, that was an out of the box action. You don't have to write that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm not sure how much more time you have left, but we'll just answer one more question. How can we combine all the alert details into one single template, which need to report to the respective team? Do we need to execute all the alerts in a case always?
So one of the things you can do with customized grouping is say, how many of these alerts I actually want to work on before it just becomes noise. I was actually at a big conference about a year ago, and someone came up after a SOAR presentation and said, I wish I'd had you, because this morning one of my stupid pieces of tech has given me 700 of the same identical alert. So for that, you know, for that use case, it'd been great to have a playbook that said, group the first 5, you know, if they look basically identical, group the first 5, but beyond that, just kind of put them on pause, or group the first 20, or group the first 50. Again, we can control that. So what we would probably do there is group the first X amount of alerts that you want us to. They would all go through the process. Now, if that playbook was fully automated, you've got nothing to do. They would all be handled. If, however, you have humans interacting in that, then obviously we would stop. But if you had humans interacting, you would probably just have that as like a yes/no decision or a multiple choice question. So even though you're having to deal with a handful of them, it's not really important. And maybe you could build into a playbook that said, you know, if by the time I get to this point in the playbook, someone's already logged it in ServiceNow, maybe we don't log it, we don't handle it. I don't know. So there'd be ways of basically building that into the process, I think. Again, the devil would be in the detail. But yeah, we can customize how many we group and how many we act upon.
Awesome. Okay. How much more time do you have for questions?
Yeah, I can do a few more. I can do a few more.
Okay. My question is, can we decide which manual actions on case could be added to a visit for some special users, or are all manual actions visible for all tiers or users?
Can we decide? Let me just read it again to get in my head. Can we decide which manual actions on case could be added to visit for some special users? So what we could do, one of the things that we're introducing with version 6 is the ability to have customized views. So one case would have a tier 1 view or a tier 2 view. Maybe we'd even have a customer view or an MSSP view. Again, you can really tailor that. And what that would mean is we'd be able to show different sets of information in different views. And again, that allows us to say to maybe the network engineer team, can you look at this case, but we don't want you to see everything. Or again, for an MSSP, maybe we would have that as, you know, depending on the way that the MSSP delivers their service, you could basically say, you know, the customer can log in, the customer can see the ticket, but I only want them to see a handful of actions. So yes, we can do, you know, customized views that limit data. Yeah.
Awesome. And can I use Simplify if I don't have a SIM?
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually have a few customers in the UK. Actually, I think one's a customer, one's a prospect. And actually, they have been doing SIM for so many years that they're tired of it and they're trying to move away from it. So we do not need a SIM at all. I could probably differentiate here between the difference between SIM and a log store. You don't need either. You know, SOAR and Simplify, we can receive alerts directly. We can then do integrations directly. We can do case management and workflow directly. There is never a requirement for a SIEM or a log store. I think there are some value sometimes in having a log store. You know, for example, if I get an attack of an IP address, maybe I want to say, have we seen that IP address for the last 3 months? And that kind of information can give me better context for the case. It might help my analyst make a better decision. You know, is that a real customer? How often have we seen it? But it is absolutely not mandatory. So yeah, I think there is some value in log store. Is there value in SIEM? It depends on how much time and effort and money you have to put in to get the value back out of SIEM. So again, you know, for some customers, that is a very sensible, worthwhile investment and resource. For some people, I think log store can quite often be enough. But again, it depends on the company and the use cases.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy, and thank you everyone for your great questions. I'm just gonna quickly show some more slides for you guys. So before we go, I do really want to quickly mention that here at Simplify, we do have a free community edition of our platform. So this is a free version of the SOAR platform, and it really enables you to get that full power of managing security operations from a single platform in your own environment. And you can really like hit the ground running, zero to hero, with ready use deploy cases, building playbooks, integrating your tools, and responding to alerts. So in addition to trying out SOAR for the first time, you're also going to be able to get access to our Slack community. So in the community, you're going to be able to join this great group of security operation experts from around the world and communicate through Slack. So if you want to get started and join the community, you can visit simplify.co/community, and you can download and gain access to the community right now. And finally, I want to thank you all so much again for joining us today. And if you have any additional questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.